Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll talk to a veteran of the oil and gas business about where crude is headed from here. That's just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I have to confess, I'm a big fan of the TV series Dallas. I named my son Dallas after the TV show. I was living up north when J.R. Ewing was doing his thing and dominating television in the 80s. And I just wanted to be J.R. Ewing. I wanted to move to Texas and own oil wells, because once you get into the oil business, everything's perfect. Isn't it, R.T. Trevino?
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, it's real perfect.
R.T. Trevino, good friend. He is the vice president of Pecos Country Operating. Thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me today, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Well, I bet when the 80s were hot and that TV show was the number one show in the land, you got a lot of comparisons to J.R. Ewing. Did you not?
Oh, no, I did not. Other than the fact that everybody wanted to know, is it real? Do you really just hang out all day and, drive here and drive there? And I'm like, no, you actually got to turn a wrench here and there.
Well, tell us the history of the company.
Certainly. Pecos Country Operating and Pecos Country Energy have been around for a little over 10 years now combined. Pecos Country Operating is obviously an operating company that we use for our energy company, Pecos Country Energy, which is exploration and production. So we basically own and operate any leases that we have here in the great state of Texas. So that is what we do on a regular basis. In a nutshell, we actually started in the early 2000s. However, my father actually started in the mid 80s during the height of Dallas, so to speak. He was working here downtown Fort Worth for a lot of the family oil and gas companies writing custom software. And then he kind of started to look at it, and it was like, writing custom software for the accounting departments. And it was like, these tax advantages are okay. And so, long story short, he said, I'd rather put my money in the hole in the ground than give it to Uncle Sam. So that's where that came from. So he started doing that, and just on the side while he continued to write software and grow on that aspect. And then me and my brothers, we all ended up in college on different life paths. And the next thing you know, it was like, hey, I have an idea. So we all met with my father, and he goes, here's what I'm thinking. And we all bought in, and here we are a little over 10 years later, and we're still rocking and rolling today. We can't complain.
Well, something your father said, very wise man, he says, we've seen this before. And that was true up until COVID, was it not?
Absolutely. That is one thing he always says, and I'm sure all the veterans also say is, hey, we've seen this. It's going to change. It's just like the weather in Texas. That's the best way to describe the oil and gas industry. It's going to change tomorrow. And so, that was always his claim to fame. I've seen this before, but last year on April 20th, when we hit negative oil, I asked him, I said, you ever seen this before? He goes, no, this one's different.
And that would have been actually the perfect time to get into oil if you're an investor.
Absolutely. I mean, whether it's direct working interest in actual leases here in Texas or even in stocks, which I'm not one of those guys, you saw everything take a dip that day and for the next few months. But isn't that what the case is? It's always whenever it looks like it's the wrong time to invest, that's always the right time to invest.
Well, I know you got to have a stomach of iron to be in the oil industry because the price can fluctuate wildly depending on world events. Take us back to the early days of the pandemic. People are now working from home. They're not using gasoline. They're not traveling. They're not getting on jets anymore. Are you nervous?
We were a little bit. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about that. It was, how is the production going to stop. At one point, Texas was, well, not just Texas, but they were trying to lower the production rates of all the small independent companies. And it was like, man, we can't afford to not stop producing and selling the amount of oil that we sold on a daily basis. So we all got together at that time, and Pioneer actually led that charge, saying, hey, we need to be able to produce and sell our oil just like the majors. So there was that aspect. However, we also saw it as a blessing in disguise. We were able to pick up several more leases during that April to June of last year. People that wanted out saying, hey, I'm done. This is not where we want to go. And so we were able to, again, pick them up at the right price. And we've been able to take all those leases and drill new wells and rework old ones and bring those up into better production today, which is always a good thing.
Well, another thing that's happened in your industry is that we've gotten much more sophisticated when it comes to getting the oil out of the ground. It's gotten much more cost effective. So when the price of oil dips by $10 a barrel, it's not devastating because what does it actually cost to get it out of the ground these days?
Usually, our model, since we are a small operator and a small independent, our model is a lot different. But we always do our best to do our break even in 6 to 8 months. It's like, if this well came online and only did X amount of barrels, are we going to get our money back in 6 to 8 months? Mm-hmm. So that's usually the way that we do things when we look at the cost. And of course, right now, drilling costs are just a little bit higher than they were during the pandemic, but it actually surprisingly is not that much different right now than it was then, which still it's a good thing for us.
What is oil trading for right now, a barrel?
Today, when I looked, we were right under $70 at $69 and change, and natural gas was right below $5, about $4.89 a day.
And could the typical oil company make money at $50 a barrel these days, or when is the break even for oil?
Yes, well, the normal break even for oil is $41. That is our break even for us. Not that I'm not answering for any other companies out there, but it's 41. That to us is our break even. But even at $35 oil, we're still, again, looking at 12 months on things, on those investments to return back to us.
Well, behind every great man mm-hmm. is a good woman.
Oh, yes.
And your Sue Ellen is. Tell us about your bride.
Well, I would have to say my bride, her name's Amanda Lee. She would probably want to be a Victoria Principal much rather than a Sue Ellen. What was her name? Yes, Bobby's wife. Victoria Principal, Pamela. There it is. She'd much rather want to be a Pamela than a Sue Ellen. But yes, my wife's name is Amanda. I call her Amanda Lee. She's from Fort Worth herself, a TCU grad, and she loves it. I mean, she can't complain. There are a lot of early mornings for me sometimes, so that, might get a little bit. But she is actually in sales. She works for a multinational or international skincare brand. And so she does a lot, travels a lot, and she just loves what she does. And so I can't complain there.
Outstanding. Yeah. Tell us about the future. Do you see the U.S. becoming oil independent one day where we don't have to import any oil? Well,
we could do that today. During the last administration, we actually were, for the first time, independent. And then, we put all these new sanctions on as soon as the new administration came in. And now, as you recall, just a couple of weeks ago, he asked OPEC to produce more oil so that the price will go down here in America. So, go figure, But no, we are on our way. I was reading an article today that David Blackman, or was it Daniel? Was asked Putin a question about the shale industry in America. Mm-hmm. And it may have been Daniel Yergin, the author of The Prize and the Quest. Yes. I think that's who it was. And he goes, asked Putin a question about the shale. You would have thought that Daniel Yergin cursed him out, and because he is so afraid of the shale industry here in America, that we can produce natural gas at such a great price and then be able to sell it not only to Americans, but throughout the world. So, and because he doesn't want to sell into to the United Kingdom, he feels like that's his backyard, and that's where he needs to be selling all his oil too.
Outstanding. Well, you have been an amazing guest. Give us your website.
It's pcoperating.com. It's just kind of, tells a little bit about us, and we go from there.
Okay, final question.
Yeah.
Where is oil headed from here?
I'd say in the short term, it's definitely headed up. No ands, ifs, or buts about that. We're getting ready to hit into the winter months, so I could definitely see $80 oil coming. Some banks think we'll be at 120 in the next 18 months. One bank even thinks 200, which I don't even want that. I don't want $200 oil. I can tell you that much. But, the way things are going, we're not reinvesting right now in new oil. So since we're not reinvesting in new oil, we're literally producing and using what we've already drilled new wells for. And in the next 18 to 24 months, we will need new oil. And so we could definitely see it going up from there.
If somebody wants to invest with you, they can get a hold of you through your website, which is?
It's pcoperating.com. It's just Pecos Country Operating. And give us a call, and contact info's there on the website.
Outstanding. You've been an amazing guest. We're going to have you back soon.
Oh, thank you, Jeff.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.